See another green line there. Not to worry. You have hands that tend to sweat a lot. It might be a good idea, or if you're in a climate that's really warm, you'll find your hands are more moist than in the cooler climates where everything gets dried out like a prune. But if you have hand oils, it's very possible you could transfer them onto the wood carving and create areas that will be shiny, because you've got the oil paint that you're applying, you got your sealer and all, but something's different about the areas that have absorbed hand oils, and it doesn't quite absorb the same and kind of leaves a shine. So it's not a bad idea to be wearing a glove. When you're wood burning. A lot of this has been held on areas that aren't burned yet. But I know some people just tend to have very sweaty palms, and something to take note of. It's winter here now, so the house is quite dry and it's pretty cool in the studio. Turn up the heat just a titch. There we go. It's kind of fighting it through the wood there. A little bit too light. can work faster on the top of the head here, and because I'm working faster, the tip of my wood burning pen isn't quite warm enough, so I've stopped to turn it up a couple of times now. See, I'm putting a little twist here and there to break these lines up, make them look more like individual barbs coming up off of the head of the skull. If you're burning hot, like I just had to turn the temperature up, and I haven't had to have this temperature until now, and I'm starting to feel it on my thumb, the heat as it rises off of the pen. And one of the things you can do is wear rubber finger guards that they use for like flipping through papers. You can find them at at Office Max or Office Depot, and they come in different sizes. You can also use like Band-Aid fabric bandages, work really good. The heavy duty ones. Don't get the plastic ones. They don't breathe, number one, and they just, and the cloth, the fabric bandages are waterproof actually, not that you want to get your Band-Aid wet and then come back and touch your bird, because then it's just going to suck in the water. But if you have a cut or a burn or something like that you're covering, they are waterproof and will withstand a few hand washings. They're much more comfortable to wear as well than the plastic type of bandages. But they can insulate your finger from the heat of the wood burning pen if necessary. Just note that you're not like burning way over the top of your pen and putting a little bit of an angle on it. Maybe what you do is you tilt your bird so that you don't have to be hovering directly above the pen, and that'll alleviate some of that heat transfer. I'm going to go to the end of this video, and that I'm going to be calling it a day. And come back and do the splits, but what I want to do before I add splits is go in and hunt down those grain lines. Those grain lines are going to force me to put splits there, so once they get laid in and the grain lines have disappeared, Then I can go back in and even off the splits that are needed around the grain lines. Everything will get evened out accordingly. When I first started carving, and I watched some demonstrations of wood burning by other carvers at the time, and they never really talked much about the grain lines and to watch for them, or even how to get rid of them if you find yourself in the predicament of having them show. I have gone back on a bird that I've burned and wood burned and then sealed, and as soon as I put my first stroke of paint on, all I could see was the grain lines in the wood, and I was horrified. I was just like, I did not know what I was going to do. I mean, my carving was, to me, it was wrecked. So I took one of my other burning tips, not my good one that was a little bit coarser, and I went in and I hunted down all those grain lines and burned on them and blended everything in. And dang if I wasn't able to make them all disappear, and you could not even see them. So there's another instance of having to solve a problem that you don't anticipate along the way. Hopefully, my stories of things that have happened to me will save you from making the same mistake. Or if you do make the same mistake, at least you'll know you weren't alone in doing so. So guess what? We all make mistakes. I'm anxious to get to the back of the head. Hopefully this video is going to last me to get past the top of the crown, the crest. Turn it up a little bit again. So I can move at a faster pace. You can see I'm making little tiny V's to end the barbs with a twist at the end of my stroke. Doing a lot more of that when I come back and do the second pass. It's important to use your light so you can see the shadows of your texturing. So you're not working against the texture, but instead you're refining the texture you did with your texturing stone. Oops, kind of a hard spot right there. Kind of make note of that. Once I get the first pass finished, I'm going to go over and do an inspection video where I'll make note of everything that needs to be done before I can even think about stopping to paint. Got some harder wood on this side. Right here. There's always one side that's easier for me to do, whether it's carving or burning. It's probably the right side as I'm working because I'm right-handed. And when I know these things, like, oh, this is going to be a really hard step, or it's going to be harder on this side than that, I will do the harder step first, because then everything else seems so much easier. Get it out of the way. A bit more here. I'm glad the video lasted to the back of the head on this crest, and I guess that's what I'll be tackling in my next sitting. See this green line here? That's what I mean by hunting down the grain lines and eliminating down.